After 20 years as a bomb disposal expert, including tours of Iraq and Afghanistan with the British Army, Heather Hartley struggled with PTSD.
One Remembrance Day at a low point, she found some old trainers and decided to go for a run.
That hour changed her life.
This is TRC Meets. So Heather, you didn't consider yourself a runner. You had PTSD, and then one day on Remembrance Sunday, you went out for a run, picked up some trainers and just went out the door. Can you describe what did that moment feel like?
I think it was kind of a do or die moment. The Remembrance Day prior to that, I'd been sat in a hospital bed and not in a good place. And so coming up to that Remembrance Day, I was like, I can't sit and go through that process again. So I need to do something different. And like previously being in the army, I had run and hated it. But I thought, well, it kind of gives you the discipline to keep up that fitness. And so I'm just going to grab my shoes, go for a run and see how it goes.
And how did that run feel when you were on it?
It was really mixed. They had a poppy medal and a bugler, and they like did the 2-minute silence, and I'd taken like one of the Remembrance Day crosses, and I'd like written my friends' names on it and did my own little tribute, and it felt good to run and not think about it. And then the run stopped for the 2-minute silence. We did the 2-minute silence. I like planted my cross near a tree and then carried on running again. And it kind of gave me that freedom to remember it, but not too in depth, like not let it overwhelm me.
And were you running with other people at the time?
Yeah, I don't remember the other people, but yeah.
They were there.
Yeah.
And what did it do? A lot of people, when they run, it gives you that space to kind of see your thoughts rather than struggle with your thoughts. Is that what
Absolutely.
You find?
Yeah. So you can think through things almost more logically because you're so tired from the running aspect of it, and you're concentrating on that. It's taking up a bit of your brain capacity, so you don't feel the thoughts as much, but you can think through them more. Less emotionally, I think.
What was your mind at this point? You'd had a difficult year. You'd had PTSD, and you struggled with that because of what you'd experienced in your time in the army. What was going on in your life in that year before that first run where you found your trainers and you went, right, I'm going to get out there, and it happened to be Remembrance Day?
It was pretty much a fair majority of it was spent in hospital. So it was the trauma was coming out in different ways, and it was starting to affect my physical health as well. And so I was in hospital for a good 5 or 6 months, and in a pretty serious condition as well, like a lot of time basically being brought back to life and then maintaining the life, and then trying just not to slump down that, because prior to that, like the PTSD was so bad, I couldn't even leave the house, like for 4 or 5 years, just barely left the house other than to do a school run, and that was it.
Is that why you were in hospital?
Yeah, pretty much. It just took its toll massively on my physical health as well. It's obviously the mental health side of it with the complex PTSD is what I have been diagnosed with.
And can you compare, because prior to that, you worked in the army doing bomb disposal, which is an incredibly, I'm guessing, job where you have to be so sure of yourself.
Yeah.
So was it hard going from kind of, I've been this person that goes into these situations, takes control, to then, was it kind of a slow deterioration, or did you just kind of forget who that person was?
It was a real slow deterioration right back from the first big traumatic event when I was in Iraq back in 2004. It just happened so slowly over the years. It was affecting me, but I was never showing that it was affecting me. And then you have to have this kind of this hat that you put on, this kind of wall, especially as a woman in what was a real male-orientated job, you kind of have to have this like persona, no nerves, no fear, just get on, get the job done. And to be fair, when I was actually walking to a bomb and defusing a bomb, I never had the fear. That bit never kind of scared me. It was just kind of all the other imposter syndrome that kind of went with that.
And how do you get to there? Like, as a kid, were you like, this is what I want to do? Did
I
it
always
match
wanted
up?
to join the army, yeah. I didn't join initially straight away into bomb disposal. It came later. So I worked with them in Iraq. And then, I had like one of the best tours ever with the bomb disposal in Afghanistan. One of the points when it was the most dangerous time to be out there. And it was incredible, but equally really hard. Like there was obviously a lot of death and a lot of stuff that happened then as well.
But did you feel like you were making a difference? And I'm guessing that it empowers you because you're going to do a job, you're able to do it. It gives you that kind of mental resilience to then carry on.
Yeah, it was kind of like a mystery, like somebody's seen a bag or something, and you have to kind of develop the story and develop in the situation so you can know how to deal with what's down at the other end. And so it's kind of like I don't want to say it's a game because clearly it's not a game, but it's like a bit like a quiz to find out what it is you're facing and how it is to kind of overcome that.
You did tours of Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, how many different bombs do you think over your years in the army you actually had to make safe? Or how many did you deal with?
It's got to be kind of 50, 60 plus. Got to be in that kind of region.
And by the time that you left, did you feel like that was kind of your natural state, was your adrenaline was always that high? So what on earth do I do after I've done this job when you leave the army? Because you're living in a state where your adrenaline is always close to 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the danger because you always kind of chase that high. Like you can't, it's hard to recreate that in normal everyday life unless you go and get a job with like mine clearance people or something like that. And obviously having a little girl, that's not high on my list of jobs to do.
No.
So it's hard to chase that high. But I kind of find that when you set yourself like a really high goal running, say, and you cross the line and you get that runner's high or that runner's cry, whichever, they're both equally as good.
I haven't heard it described like that before. I've had a lot of runners cry recently.
Yeah, but it's kind of, in a way, I think that's more cathartic, like that cry you have when you finish. Yeah. And Milton Keynes for me was a big cry moment, mainly because I'd just been massively triggered by the really loud music out the front of the stadium. But that runner's cry is equally as good, I think.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting connection as well, because everyone will have their different reason as to why running just clicked for them. And obviously within the army, you weren't a stranger to running.
I hated running in the army.
But then what do you think is the difference between how you see running now and how running kind of clicked for you on that Remembrance Sunday versus when you had to go out and do 6 miles every day in the army?
Bizarrely enough, for someone who spent so long in the army, I hated being told what to do. And now I've got that freedom to run when I want to, walk whenever I want to, not feel, still hard, but not feel the shame of walking and just running my own race and being able to kind of make it what I want it to be. That freedom of doing that's made running far more fun for me.
So that first run that you went on,
yeah.
After that, did running just instantly become a part of your life, or was it kind of slow addition?
I wish I could say yes, but no. No, because it was winter and I'm a very cold person. It was a struggle, but I got to the point where I could feel the mental health start dropping back off again. And I thought, right, I found a solution for this. I'm going to go back out and run again. And I noticed that when I ran, I slept better. Everything made more sense, and my brain just worked better. And so I kind of got to the point where I was like, right, I need to run more frequently so I can get this energy out of me and in a healthier way. And then I think I started training for a marathon because it was one of my goals. Like, I wanted to run a marathon, and I didn't get into London, but I thought I'll keep the training up anyway. And I think the week before, I entered into Milton Keynes Marathon, and I thought, well, you know, even if I go and walk the whole thing, I'll have still done it.
Is this when you got the bib number that was the same as your army number?
Yeah, which was creepy, bizarre. But when it happened the second time, that was even more bizarre. So about a couple of days before the Milton Keynes Marathon, they sent out an email and it had like your bib number on it. And my last 4 digits of my army number were 3330. And that happened to be the bib number that I got for Milton Keynes. And I'd like entered last minute. You couldn't pick your bib number or anything like that. It was completely coincidental.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh God, I've really got to do this now. Because
that is a sign telling you you've got to put that bib on.
Yeah. And I've actually got to go and do it. Like, it was almost like me representing my career in a way, because I had my number on me, but it turned out to be a good marathon anyway. So,
and can you talk us through, because for you especially, like running a marathon with lots of people around, when you've been what you've been through, you said like the loud music, for example, was quite triggering. Was that kind of a barrier, but one that you wanted to overcome as well, of like, not only is running helping me release this energy that I've got to get rid of, but I'm overcoming so many other things as well?
Yeah. I mean, I never really think these things through, and I never really thought about how crowded the start line was going to be, or it never went through my mind about that there was going to be loud music or anything like that. And obviously, most of them, you're not allowed to wear headphones. That's usually what I do, is put headphones in, and it kind of
blocks it out. Yeah.
But obviously, I didn't have that option with the marathon, and it never really dawned on me until that moment. And it was about 800 meters from the finish line, and I sprinted that 800 meters because I was that triggered from the
you wanted to get away from it.
Yeah, from the loud music.
And then, how did you feel at the end?
Oh, just total euphoria. Like, I felt there was a lot of tears, a lot of crying, a lot of tears. It was kind of like my body can do it, my mind can do it. Like, you lose that trust in yourself with something like PTSD, because you never really know what your brain's going to do in the next moment, when it's going to get triggered or anything like that.
Has running in some way, or exercise, has it replaced that adrenaline? You did 20 years in the British Army. You diffused multiple bombs in multiple war zones, and you came back, Heather, and you had that difficult 3 years, didn't you? Where you were in and out of hospital, you had incredible mental pressure, PTSD, and then you found something that helped you get away from that. But you weren't necessarily looking for it, were you? It was almost an accident that you found it.
It was almost running away, yeah, like a mask for the PTSD, and just a coping mechanism. It's become a massive part of my life now. It's something I need to do to keep myself on a kind of level playing field, and being able to deal with everything that life throws you. Like, I'm a single parent as well, so with everything that entails, also it's that freedom to go and have like half an hour to myself while she's at school, and just decompress, and it kind of allows me to deal with everything else that's going on.
Can you imagine your life without running in it now?
No. It almost scares me, like the kind of getting injured or anything like that. It makes me more inclined to do those horrible strength and conditioning.
Hey, don't knock us.
Rick loves the gym. Rick absolutely loves the gym. I'm with you. I find them horrible.
Can you compartmentalize your life a bit better now? Can you see that army as that was 20 years? That's something that I did, but that's in the past. I understand that it caused you enormous problems when you came out because of what you saw and what you went through. But are you able to compartmentalize it now?
The majority of the time, yes. If I'm kind of triggered by something, then that it all comes back, and that could be any variety of things: smells, sounds, environments, all sorts of different things can trigger it. And I'm still, even now, and we're kind of 6 years after diagnosis, there's still things that come along that trigger me that I wasn't quite expecting.
Yeah.
So you've got like the more obvious ones like the fireworks and that sort of stuff. But recently in the summer, when it was hot, like the sun on the kind of sandy floor where I live is quite sandy. And that kind of brightness was always in a way enough to trigger. But if I didn't run, I probably would never leave the house.
Wow.
And having that kind of fitness that I want to maintain gives me that impetus to leave the house.
Do you feel like you know what you want to do now professionally over the last 2 years as you've begun to kind of figure it out and put your life into those blocks, and that was the past, and you feel like you can move on a little bit more now? I know you've talked about maybe helping other people who've got PTSD.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I think sometimes it's hard to sit down and talk kind of face-to-face therapy. I think if you kind of did that, I don't know, running in the Lake District is unbelievably amazing. If you could run with somebody in that situation and talk to them, I think it like opens up an easier conversation to have. Like,
yeah, it's so interesting with running how some of the deepest chats I've ever had would be on a run. And it doesn't matter if someone else could be running past, I'll still openly talk about it. But it's that not having that eye contact. Same with sometimes with a car journey.
True.
You can get so much deeper.
Or a walk.
Yeah. And especially I think though, because you are running and you are out of breath and everything's kind of heightened a little bit, it enables you to sometimes push out a thought that wouldn't have come to the surface without that.
It's so funny you said that. Me and Chantal, my wife, always angle our chairs slightly outwards at a restaurant because we always think we have better conversation.
Really? So you won't sit looking at each other?
We're still looking at each other, but our chairs are probably on a 15-degree angle instead of like head to head. So we look out slightly because we always think we process the day and talk about stuff more naturally if we're watching the world go by as well as watching each other.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
I can't quite understand people who like go on a first date and go for a meal.
Oh no,
and
terrifying.
Oh no, it's too much.
Yeah, much better go for a walk. Go
for a walk or a run. Yeah.
So you're running now. Yeah. We're in the later half of 2024. You only started, is it last year?
Yeah.
And this year you've already run your first marathon and your first ultra marathon.
Yep.
Describe your first ultra, and then also, has that made you hungry for longer distances?
Yes. It's a simple answer to that.
Which ultra marathon was it?
I did an ultra marathon just with a local running company, Zigzag Running, and it was just laps around the same. It was the same lap that I did for my Remembrance Day 10K. But bizarrely, this was 2 weeks after I ran Milton Keynes Marathon, and I had the bib number thing with the Milton Keynes Marathon. When I turned up on the morning to run my ultra, the lady kind of asked my name, like ticked me off the list, and she turned and she said, "Oh, that would be bib number 330."
Wow, again.
And I was like,
you got to do it now.
Got to do it, because when it's laps, like I could have just done 5K and left it at that. But now it's like,
so was that 50K?
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a miles.
Oh, sorry. So that's 30.
33 miles.
Well done, Sarah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good maths for me.
That was good.
And how did that feel?
I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it far more than the marathon, I think. I think the running the longer and being able to like almost chill out a bit more. Like with the marathon, you know yourself, like the first thing somebody asks you is what was your time? How long did you take to run it? Nobody ever really asked that with an ultra, did they? It was more like distance, how far did you run or
What
something.
did you eat at the aid stations?
Yeah.
No one will ever ask me that, thank goodness.
But so you've gone from 10K last October to first marathon, first ultra. What's next? What do you love about running and what are you excited about?
I think further. Well, I'm actually...
Too many options.
Yeah, there are. There's so many options. I don't like running fast. I like running slower for longer. I've actually signed up to do the Langdale Marathon in October.
Nice.
But I'm wavering. I've got the fear.
No. Will that be like a nice traily, hilly?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a road one, but it's kind of described as the UK's toughest marathon.
Great.
Yeah. Why do I do these things?
But I love it. It's the ambition, and it's also like, I guess I'd love to ask you the question, if you could go back to the day before Remembrance Day where you went on that first run,
Yeah.
and talk to that Heather
Yeah.
that hadn't found running yet, what would you tell her?
Oof. Persevere, keep going. I recently read something that was just once more, just try once more, like just hold on, whether that be running or in everyday life, just keep going, just don't give up.
How does your daughter see mum now compared to the mum who left the army a few years back?
I've managed to convince her to come out on 2 runs with me. And every time she swears she's never running with me ever again. I don't think I'm the best person to run with, but it's nice. It's really nice. She's really
But it must
proud.
That's not.
Yeah.
I mean, but it must be an incredible change for her because, you know, Heather Hartley of 2 years ago never used to leave the house.
Yeah.
So the only time that she saw you was on the school run, whereas now she sees you in all types of different situations.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, all out strenuous situations running marathons. So
Yeah.
it must be, I suppose, is she sometimes seeing the Heather in some ways that used to be in those situations in the army?
Yeah. That's when the old me comes through again. And I'm like, oh. And that's the side I want to show her. Like, this is who I really am. This is who I will eventually get back to. Not the kind of feared mum that's kind of struggles to leave the house. And that's nice. It's nice for her to see that side. And it's great to see her little face.
I feel like you're on the way though, Heather. I mean, you said before we kind of started filming today that, you know, you didn't want to have a cup of tea in case your hands were shaking a little bit, which, you know, me and Sarah found wild for someone who's diffused so many bombs in combat situations. But you're almost there, aren't you?
Yeah, I have my struggle moments usually when I try and push myself too hard, but we've come a long way. It's in just that last year since coming back to running, like the things have changed an awful lot, and hopefully I will keep progressing as long as I don't terrify myself with biting off more than I can chew.
But I think you should be like hugely proud of yourself for like someone who almost didn't run Milton Keynes Marathon to being able to run that, to being able to run an ultra, to sign, just putting your name down on something. It doesn't matter if you run it or not,
No.
but just trying, like you say, holding on that little bit more and showing hopefully to other people that it's not the end until you say it's the end.
Yeah.
And even then you've probably got one more in you.
Yeah,
as
and
such a positive message.
Sometimes like the just getting to the start line is the hardest bit, I feel. Like the run is almost like a celebration of getting to that point, just actually turning up with all the kind of barriers and that can come in the way.
You're one of the greatest examples that Sarah and I and Andy have ever met on the why people run. Why you run is magnificent. You've changed your whole life around from that Remembrance Day run, and the reasons of why are different for every single person, but yours is amazing. So I think you should be really proud.
Thanks.